so much, Shipra. Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, their elders past and present. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Phillip here, to the distinguished guests, to Manish Gupta, Consul General of India, to Nimeesha Gupta, to you councillors, Kalyan Nanda, and also to Sameer Pandey, to you Abjit Sarkar, and to you guests from overseas, and to all you other distinguished guests that are present here today. I am really delighted to say a few words today, and congratulations to Rekha, congratulations for putting this together and for the fabulous work that you are doing. Congratulations, and the CMRC is really very glad and fortunate and happy to support, the work that you're doing at ILASA. So congratulations. I'm going to say a few words about what Rekha has asked me to speak on today. And she's asked me to actually talk about my journey. And I'm just going to really go back about 30 to maybe 40 years, and I'm going to talk about my motivation as a young child growing up. I'm not sure how many of you have had the opportunity. I have been promoting it on Facebook for exactly 1 year and about 17 days. You would have seen Melissa, the girl from Mumbai, but I did that because I was really keen on promoting the girl from Mumbai. I was keen on telling my story, and I was keen that people purchased a book. All proceeds of my book go to the Community Migrant Resource Center, and we've done really well. I've done 2 print reruns, and I'm really happy with the hundreds. I'm not sure about thousands, but I know the book is an Amazon bestseller and has reached more than 27 countries, and it is up there and out there globally, so I'm really very proud. Thank you. My journey as a writer began in my very, very young days. In those early years when I was in school, I spent my short vacations with my grandfather. Then, my sisters, grandfather, and I spent most of our time together telling stories. While my grandfather had an inexhaustible ability for storytelling with narratives, such as his days as a customs officer, I found my stock of stories running out. At the same time, I loved to play with words. In school, the subject I enjoyed least was English. In year 11, my textbooks, and especially grammar, was really very, very poor. My interest in writing grew with my love for literature, for people. I began to see and appreciate the different styles of writing, for instance, essay, creative, report, etc., etc. Meanwhile, my dad, who was a retired naval officer and then retired with an NGO called the Catholic Relief Services, often discussed various concepts of poverty, social justice, and I'm just going to quickly tell you about a time where I was about 8 years old, 9 years old, and I lived in Baikala in Mumbai, which was a very disadvantaged area, a suburb, that was not very, very affluent, and it had a lot of slum communities, pavement dwellers, if you know, those of you who have visited, had a lot of pavement dwellers on the street, on the road, just outside where I used to live. About 200 meters from my house was the Missionaries of Charity, Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity. And after school, I used to go as a child, go and volunteer, go and feed the inmates at the Missionaries of Charity. And there I used to see the nuns with so much of love and affection looking after those 400 inmates that were just in those kind of very open, from memory, they were just open kind of warehouses that were turned into homes. But the love that they had is what was a turning point for me. The love in which they looked after these abandoned seniors who had no family and who had no one else to care for them. Coming back to my father, when I was about 12 years old, I said to my father, I would like to go to Africa. And so my father had one of those sit me downs, you know, the father-daughter talks. He said, come and sit here, because he was like, oh, she wants to go to Africa. And I'm like, so he said, why do you want to go to Africa? And I said, I want to help people. I want to work with, you know, I want to serve people. And he said, do you want to make it a career? Because I guess my father by then had noticed that spark in me, or that service element in me, in wanting to change the world, go and be of service to people, go and help people. And he said, why Africa? When you have poverty at your doorstep, when there are people on your street that are poor and that you can go out and help. And it didn't dawn on me before, because the media and the way media portrayed countries and poverty in the world, they made it as though only Africa was the poor country. But we had, in our own country, we had people that were disadvantaged and that I could help. And I jumped at it, and that was the starting point for me in my life, community services, where my father introduced me then, because of his own background to community. After retiring from the Indian Navy, he worked with this NGO, the Catholic Relief Services, which gave food, aid, sugar, rice, bulgur, wheat, to very poor and disadvantaged states, people, tribals in disadvantaged, in Bihar, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, etc. And to the tribal areas. Every month after he came back, he would tell us a story, me and my two other sisters and my brother. And we listened with, you know, eyes open. I used to be so kind of moved as to what difference my father was making to their lives. And that, for me, was the turning point again. The work that I did and I saw my family do, my grandparents do it at the Sisters, the Missionaries of Charity, was the turning point for me. In my book, that's when I realized my father guided me. In my book, I talk about those. I won't go into details today, but that was the motivation, Rekha. I chose social work as a career because of that guidance that I had then as a child. I did my bachelor's and my master's in social work, and with each year that passed, I was exposed to social issues in India. Like the previous speaker, you know, you spoke about, very beautifully you talked about your motivation and why you did it and leaving a legacy for your children. I would also like to leave a legacy not just for my children, but I would like to tell that beautiful, positive story about India and about Mumbai. Mumbai especially, because Mumbai is closest to my heart. I lived there for a long period of time before I came to Australia, about 22 years ago. Mumbai touched me, and Mumbai, what I want to bring about, and what I'm going to read a paragraph for you today, is Mumbai is that land that never sleeps. Like New York, it is not just a concrete jungle, but there's more to Mumbai, more than the buildings, more than the wealth that there is there. Yes, there is disadvantage, but it is that no one ever goes hungry in Mumbai. There is a life for everyone, and that is what I saw, and that, friends, is the motivation for me having written my book. As I went on, my love for writing only increased. I wrote stories that stayed in my diary. I knew I was poor in writing, and I needed to advance my skills with courses in creative writing. But I realized that creative writing alone, like most artistic endeavors, does not bring much financial profit. This was the idea that was jolted in my mind to further qualify on my writing skills. In India, as I said, I worked as a social worker. I did my bachelor's, my master's, I did field work and placements in the red light areas in Kamatipura, for those of you who know, Mumbai. In slums, at the grassroots with women. I had so many stories to tell. Each year that went by, I had a new story to tell. By the time I was married, I had so much to share. From an early age, I was volunteering with agencies and absorbing issues in my life. Whether it was women, adoption, social justice, street children, migrant workers, or prostitutes, I had a story to tell. After I migrated to Australia, I got into the settlement sector. At that time, I was very honored, and really today I'm very honored to have Mr. Ruddock here in this audience. He was the Minister for Immigration, and there were many lessons that I learned from you, Mr. Ruddock, the way the way you managed your portfolios over a period of time, the closeness that you had and the learnings that you had with community, the relationships that you had with them. Just like today, you catch the boat, you tell us you met Indira Gandhi, and I learned a lot from you, and it is honestly my honor and to have you in this audience while I am able to share about my own learnings about why I wrote the book. Thank you. The book is about my journey then. Half of the book literally is about the girl from Mumbai and my story about Mumbai and the appreciation and love I have for the city of Mumbai, of course the country of India, but I knew more about Mumbai because it was the city that moved me and touched me. And I wanted to break the myth also that it's not all poverty in Mumbai. There's a lot of wealth. Though the billionaires that are in, like the Ambanis and the houses, you will never even come close to in Australia. Even our richest people will not probably come close to. But I want to break that myth that, Consul General, you'll agree with me that there is so much of wealth and richness in culture, richness also in terms of the actual wealth, and that is the reason why I wrote my book. After which I came to Australia, and I outline here my own settlement journey. My journey was an easier journey. Today I'm dealing with migrants, with refugees, people coming from various countries, and who have done it very hard, who've come from torture trauma backgrounds, who are finding it very hard to get employment. I came to Australia and I lived in a 10-bedroom house. And that's the reason why I'm able to know and understand that I did it easy, but when I go to work every day in my second month, I was employed at a migrant service, and I could understand the difficulties that people were going through just getting to their place or leaving their place of home to come to their place of work. Transport is hard for a newly arrived migrant. Every one of the indicators for successful settlement became something that I could resonate with because I did it easy. And sometimes, you don't always have to go through it so hard is what I want to share and say to people. You don't always need to do it tough. You can do it easy and still be a person to understand what the people that are doing it hard. Today, my job is all about settling migrants and refugees in this country. At the CMRC, Mr. Ruddock, we're proud to say, in those days we used to service maybe a few hundred. We were funded by the Department of Immigration. Today we are servicing 37,000 clients per year through staff, 150 staff, through multiple levels of funding. We don't only rely on the one department, but we have other sources, state government, local government, and of course the other sponsorships and other philanthropic organizations that fund us. The Girl from Mumbai is all about making that difference, changing people's lives by telling my story. I have been able to be instrumental in different ways by giving people an understanding of my own journey. So I turn that around, and that's the legacy I leave for my children and for people here, that Mumbai is a beautiful country, a city that never sleeps, and a beautiful place. I'd encourage you all to please get a copy of my book. Today I have a copy for the Consul General and for you, Mr. Ruddock. But to everybody else that are here, I would ask you to please, Shipra, if you can, I'm giving you a bookmark just so that you can put it at your bedside and make sure that you go through and purchase a copy of The Girl from Mumbai. It is on special, so please get a copy of The Girl from Mumbai. And all proceeds go to the Community Migrant Resource Centre. We're a settlement agency doing some great work in Parramatta. Thank you once again, and I'd like to now present my book to the Consul General and to Mr. Ruddock, please, if you can come up.